Hi, welcome to the tutorial on pandas.map function. By the end of this tutorial, you will be able to explain the use of pandas.map function and implement it. Throughout any machine learning project, we need to perform various transformations on the data frequently, some of which can be simple, some of which can be quite complex. Now let's look at a small example. Consider that we want to find the length of the plot in the dataset. As we are given the area of the plot, we can perform simple Python operation to convert it into plot length instead of area. So what we do is that we simply take the column containing the flat area and use the double asterisk operator to calculate the square root of that column. As another example, we can calculate a column which will contain the total area of the house by adding the lot area and the flat area. These are very simple operations and can be done directly. But what if we want to carry out a complex operation which would be very cumbersome to perform directly? For instance, this is a bar graph of the mean sale price with respect to the conditions of the house. Here we can see that mean sales price corresponding to fair and good are very much similar. Also, the mean sale price corresponding to the conditions bad and okay are also almost equal in value. As a result, we can reduce the column to have only 3 levels of condition of the house, as fair and okay are redundant and can be removed. Also, we are going to replace the words bad, good and excellent with the values 0, 1 and 3 respectively. Also, fair is equal to 1 as it is almost equivalent to good, and okay is equal to 0 as it is equivalent to bad. Here, we are using brute force to implement these changes. The syntax of what we have written is something we have seen before, that is data column name condition. Or for the first line, select all rows in condition of the house where condition of the house is equivalent to fair and assign those rows the value 1. We can clearly see that we are repeating similar code over and over. But there is another method of doing the same thing. Here, instead of using brute force, we are simply using the map function. As a parameter, we are passing a mapping to replace the elements we need. Why do you think we need the map function? Map function is several times more efficient when compared to the brute force approach. Also, the overall amount of code that we need to write is reduced. Now let's look at another example where we need to do some complex transformations with columns present in data. In our dataset, we have a column date house was sold. Now you may want to extract the year from this column to a new column. Let's try this. Here, we are again using the brute force approach in Python using a loop. The syntax looks like range len data column name colon. Here, the len function returns the total number of rows in the data column name. And the range simply makes an iterable of numbers from 0 to the number of rows in data column name. We are using a loop to go through every element in the column date house was sold by index, and I am slicing the string using the split function and picking up the last element. Then I am storing these elements in a list. Let's understand it piece by piece. We are traversing the data date house was sold by its index. I represents the ith index or ith row in that column. As we know that the values in the column date house was sold are strings, we are breaking those strings into pieces using the split function. Split function breaks the string using the blank space it encounters. That is, every time it encounters a blank space in the string, it slices the string and stores each part of the string separately. For example, the value 14 October 2017, which is a single string, will be split and stored into a list of 3 separate strings, 14 October 2017. Since there is a space between 14 and October and 2017. -1 in the end represents that we are choosing the first element of the list from the right hand side, which represents the year. As a result, for every row in the column date house was sold, we are extracting the year and storing into a variable k, which is added to the list year using the append function. Now let's look at the same operation using the pandas.map function. Here we have defined a single line function year, which splits any string and returns the last element, or we can say the first element from the right. Then we have simply defined a new column, year sold, in the dataset, and then we have used the map function on the column date house was sold and passed the defined function year as a parameter to map function. Note the syntax we are following. Data column to operate on .map modifier underscore function. Here we have operated on the column date house was sold, and the modifier function is the one which we defined as year, which extracts the last element, that is year of the instances or values passed to it. And this extracted last element is being assigned to the corresponding element or row of the new column year sold. And as we can see, we are getting the same result as the loop approach. But implementation using the pandas.map function is much cleaner and much faster. On my system, the pandas.map function ran 20 times much faster than the looping method. But there is one limitation on the map function. It can perform an operation only on a single column at a time. There can be a situation where we want to manipulate or transform data using multiple columns. In these situations, we use the pandas.apply function. We will discuss this function in detail in the next tutorial. See you then.